I know that many times they have to be bland and stick to the law, but in this case, we have a person who's recognized as a terrorist very widely. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your advice. You're free to do whatever you want. You're free to say whatever you want. I am not. My job is to consult with our lawyers and do exactly what they tell me. So I just want to point out, and I'm not being facetious, Nelson Mandela was declared a terrorist by the United States of America till the year 2008. You're a terrorist and somebody else's terrorist may be two different things.
As one Overton window shifts to include former reasonable Liberals into the Conservative movement like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, and here in Canada, Liberals like Dan McTeague and Kevin Vuong, a second window is shifting so that even radical leftists who were purged as being too extreme from the Liberal movement years ago find themselves right back inside of it. And so is the case for the radical terror apologist mayor of Mississauga, Ontario, and former Liberal MP Carolyn Parrish. She finds her radical extremist views on Hamas, terrorism, Jews, and Israel right back inside of the Liberal big tent after being kicked out of it nearly 2 decades ago. Parrish was booted from the Liberal Party for being too radical and too anti-American on the eve of a state visit by American President George Bush after stomping on an effigy of the president in 2004 on the CBC.
Wiley at the time said, okay, I need you to do a few things, and yeah, I don't know, you can step on the doll if you want or something. So she steps on it.
Carolyn?
Now, this is the same CBC that will convene election night panels to compare Donald Trump to Hitler in 2024. You see, that's the Overton window shifting.
You're talking about the propaganda campaign and the playbook of Trump. This is not new. This is not surprising. This is directly out of Hitler's playbook. This is out of an autocrat playbook. This is a way to, I mean, the things that Trump has done masterfully, frankly, is to get the entire, to get a big part of the population to believe that the game is rigged and to sow distrust in public institutions and the free press.
Now, whatever you feel about George Bush and the war on terror, time has not mitigated Carolyn Parrish's radical views on what constitutes terrorism and what justifies it. She's since become the mayor of Mississauga, Ontario, which is now colloquially known as Hamasissauga, for its constant mob gatherings of anti-Canadian extremist radicals who convened to celebrate the October 2023 terror attack by Hamas on the state of Israel that left 1,200 people dead and another 240 kidnapped. In fact, right up until just this weekend, Parrish was going to allow an event on city property that would glorify dead Hamas leader, the architect of the terror attack on Israel, Yahya Sinwar. Parrish explained that the show must go on because one terrorist is just another man's freedom fighter. And perhaps with the benefit of time and hindsight, people might see Sinwar, the mastermind of rapes, beheadings, and immolations, as a Nelson Mandela-like figure. It's so crazy, you wouldn't believe it if it wasn't caught on video. Look at this.
But in this case, we have a person who's recognized as a terrorist very widely. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your advice. You're free to do whatever you want. You're free to say whatever you want. I am not. My job is to consult with our lawyers and do exactly what they tell me. So I just want to point out, and I'm not being facetious, Nelson Mandela was declared a terrorist by the United States of America till the year 2008. You're a terrorist and somebody else's terrorist may be two different things.
But this isn't anything new, as I said, from Carolyn Parrish. She's one of the most vicious anti-Semites elected to office in Canada, and that's saying something in the time of Justin Trudeau's leadership. It's been right there for all of us to see, and we shouldn't be surprised by Parrish saying these things now. In fact, let's go through some of her greatest hits together, just to prove my point. For example, here is Parrish in 2014 claiming that the terror tunnels from which Hamas launched attacks on Israel and where innocent Israeli civilians were taken once kidnapped, well, those were just basically little hidey holes for groceries and supplies. Parrish has been against calling Hamas terrorists at all. Look at this. Unfortunately, labeling Hamas terrorist makes it all too easy to justify the killing of women and children. Now, look at this. Parrish uses scare quotes to describe Hamas as terrorists. It's a feature, not a bug. How do 1.8 million jammed in jail, blockaded 8 years fight back? They elect terrorists when all else fails. Washington was a terrorist. Parrish says she's an expert who has studied the history of Palestine, quote, intensively. Parrish won't even talk with Zionists, people who believe in the right of the state of Israel to exist. Now imagine being a Jew in Mississauga. The mayor won't even talk to you. You're a less than citizen, according to her. Now Parrish also says that Israel is committing the genocide and says she's fiercely pro-Palestinian. She says that Israel is stealing their land. She said this on at least 3 separate occasions. She was also there at the Victory for Islam Liberal nomination meeting when Liberals picked Omar al-Jabra to replace her in her riding. And Parrish routinely used her time in the House of Commons as a member of Parliament to speak out against the state of Israel. Do a little experiment for yourself. Go to Carolyn Parrish's X account. Plug in the keywords of the day: Zionist, Netanyahu, Jewish, terrorist, Hamas, settlement. Use your imagination. Then ask yourself why you are doing this and no mainstream media journalists are. You see, the mainstream media journalists are too busy worrying about which conservative MP took a picture with a trucker or which conservative MP took a picture with a random guy with a goofy t-shirt on. They're too busy accusing the most pro-Israel president in modern history with Jewish grandkids of being a neo-Hitler to chase down the real bigots in power here in Canada. But as the saying goes, not a Tory, not a story. We do not dislike the mainstream media enough. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. With a mayor like Liberal Carolyn Parrish in Mississauga, it's no wonder they call it Hamasissauga, with terror apologist mobs roaming the streets there. Now, if these terror apologist mobs are comprised of non-citizens, they should be deported immediately. To sign our petition, please go to deporthamas.com.